Okay, so our first game for the show is FTL: Faster Than Light. So it was not FTL was nominated by Solicitus at Solicitus. It was developed and published by Subset Games. Came out in September 2012 for PC, Mac,
I believe it
and
was an
probably
early Kickstarter
Linux, right?
success, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it? It was one of the
Yeah,
first.
like
Yeah,
Wow, you don't
We're
see
going
those very
It
often
came out in
nowadays.
2012 and it was kickstarted. Think about that because it's
Yeah.
2016 now, people. That's a long thing, you know. But definitely an early point where people are like, wow, crowdfunding works so well. Look, FTL, it's good. You know, trust us with money.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
well,
that
I mean, if you-
Inafune was inspired by this magnificent success. Okay, I'll shut up.
So yeah, I mean, let's kind of describe the game here. It's basically like it's a roguelike, but it's a sort of like a ship crew,
You're like a
and
spaceship
systems
crew captain simulator sort of deal. Like
Star Trek-esque.
It is.
I would call it a Star Trek simulator if you weren't running like some real dinky ass little scout ships, because like the Enterprise had a crew of at least 200 or more. Usually your crew is only as much as you can fit in the ship, which I don't even know what the
I think it's like at
is.
most like 4 or 6 or something because is the large
No,
number.
more
I
than
think.
that. You
Really, you can
have
have more than? Is it more than 8?
Yeah.
It's been
you
a while
can-
since I checked the crew numbers.
It's quite a few. I know that you've got enough. You can get enough to have like some extra dudes just around. I know that. Like usually when I'm playing the game, I'll have a couple extra guys who just stand around waiting for the ship to be boarded. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, yeah, I guess. So, what do guys do on the ship? What do they do? It's like
Let's back up even further than that and say that this is you could almost say it's Gradius X esque in that it is about a lone ship that is entrusted to save the galaxy. You are
You're
a
part
rebel.
of the Federation.
You're part of the establishment, and it's getting overrun by rebels or something. And so you're sent on a kind of a, what are you, like trying to deliver a message or something?
yeah, you're like delivering a message that we're being invaded. So
Yeah, you've got some kind of
that's not helpful.
special data, I think.
The game has some excuse for why there's just one ship going across the galaxy to get.
It's not particularly good, but I do think it's kind of a gag that like somehow the rebels are like incredibly well equipped and your Galactic Federation sucks.
Yeah, I was about to say that Star Wars fans shouldn't be confused. The rebels are actually the bad guys in this one. They're more like the what do you call them? The Reavers from Firefly.
Do they ever really explain what's so bad about them? I don't think they do. I think you just like you can go through. So anyway, it's also a roguelike.
So it's basically a roguelike where the whole dungeon setup is replaced by a series of planets.
Right.
And
We should probably... I'd like
yeah.
to talk about the structure about this game a bit, because it's interesting. It's something that's been very popular in a lot of other roguelikes and games roguelike elements. I'm not entirely sure if this is the game that started it or what, but it's less like you have a dungeon, and it's more streamlined down to like a series of encounters.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it reminds me of is what's it that game? A Firelit Room, that like kind of text adventure roguelike, part of like one of the classic browser games. But it's not that
I
old.
don't really know what you're talking about.
Firelit Room, isn't that what it's called?
I've never heard of that one.
Nobody's
it
played
could
this game
be.
but me.
I might have played it, but
Everybody should look up this game because it is incredible. But it's like a roguelike text adventure. It's really
Do you mean a dark room? Because I'm not getting anything for a firelit room here. I'm not sure.
maybe I'm misremembering it.
anyway, there's some room game and it's text, and you should play it online.
Yeah, you should play it. Look it up.
Oh, hi, Cal.
Go room text online. Just find that. Good luck.
Point is, though, I kind of do appreciate how it's all streamlined. You don't have to wander around looking for the next exit. You always know where to go. Something is always happening.
Yeah,
It's definitely it's one of the games that I think fits not as necessarily in rogue light, but rogue light, like light. You know, like it has rogue elements, but it doesn't like demand that you learn a whole heap of complex systems or understand like a huge amount of controls. It's all mouse driven, I think, if I remember correctly.
My question is, was this the first game of that kind of style, or has it been done before?
No, I've played roguelites before this game, but this is definitely one of those games that came out to popularize the idea of roguelike elements in not exactly roguelike games.
I feel like there's been a few like Starship simulators that weren't necessarily roguelikes, but had the same kind of like crew micromanagement?
They did. I think there's Star Trek Bridge Captain or Bridge Commander. There's a couple of Star Trek games that are exactly like this conceptually, but they usually are like really overly complicated in the worst ways. Like you kind of micromanage crew, but at the same time you're flying through space and you've got complete control of stuff and you've got too many systems. This game takes all the systems, shrinks them all down, and then only gives you one at a time to manage, which is very good.
Right. And you can like, it's not turn-based, but you can stop the action and like issue commands and then start the action up again. It's not frantic so much as it is.
If this game were fully real-time, it'd be probably completely impenetrable because you just have to deal with so much at once.
Right. So like the idea is that your ship has a faster than light drive, which allows it to go to jump from star to star. And then if you get to like I don't know what are they at the end? Like, are they called like work points or something where you can go to another quadrant of the galaxy or something, like not quadrant, but sector.
Right. Because the game is basically played sector through sector and you're being chased. I mean, we didn't really mention that you're being physically chased in the game. Right.
So there's like an oncoming field that shows up on the map, and each turn you take, each ship movement you make, it goes another one. So a big part of this game is trying to outfit your ship as best you can by visiting as many planets as you can without doubling back and going to places you've already been.
What happens if you get in the way? Do you just die? Because I've never seen that.
You can survive. It's
actually really cool. You just start ship to ship combats, and your goal is basically to jump away. I think you have to beat one ship at least. I can't quite remember. But yeah, basically an endless wave of enemies start attacking you, singular ship after ship, and you have to fight until you can get your jump engines back online to get out of there.
Right. It's usually like not good because you don't want to, if it overtakes you, then probably most of the places you can go, it'll still be they'll catch up with you before you.
Well, this whole game is not like most of you really want to avoid combat in this as much as possible. You want to not be in combat.
But there's a lot of random combat encounters and stuff.
Oh yeah, you don't get to choose. But
you don't get to choose, right?
But you don't want to get caught in the wave of endless ships because you'll take damage that you don't want to take.
So right, but you gotta do battles though to get scraps.
Yes.
And you got to use scraps to buy either upgrade your existing systems or buy new systems, and that's really important.
Resource management is. Go ahead.
Right. I felt like when I play the game, I want to get into.
You want to get into scraps that you can safely win. You don't want to end up against something that's going to kick your ass.
Right, but I mean, you quickly develop. There's a lot of different weapon systems, and they recently updated the game to add like even more stuff if you want to, and it's kind of an option whether you want the additional content in there or not. It includes like brain slugs and stuff like that.
Resource management in this game is super important because you can fix your ship. That means you're not going to have any money for upgrades, or you can get upgrades, but you're going to have less health. And
I think that does actually, it makes it similar to the game we looked at, Ironcast on GCX home video, I think.
Right, that's a game that's very much inspired by FTL.
Very similar.
This game's like a Cowboy Bebop simulator. You're perpetually poor, but you keep needing money to fix up everything and just sustain a decent living.
It's a good comparison.
I was going to compare it to Firefly also, but...
Or Space Dandy.
I still have to get on that series. I intend to soon.
Everybody should see Space Dandy. It's great. It is a lot more in the spirit of this game because it has all kinds of crazy ass aliens and stuff. Anyway, you start out with like a crew of like 3 people or something.
Depending on your ship. There's lots of different ships. You start with one and you can unlock others. Your basic ship is a human ship with 3 humans.
Doesn't the game itself say that humans are boring and unremarkable?
Yeah.
Yes, that's how race trait.
But you can add new people to your ship of different species. There are the Rock Lords or whatever they're called. There's my favorite guys to get are the energy beings who just by being in a station will add an extra bar of power to that station.
Right, because you have power management, which you didn't mention, but it's very, very important. You have to manage. You never have enough power to run everything in general. So those
Right.
guys are really great because they will always give you power.
This is one of those games that has so many things that it's not hard to learn, really. It's hard to get good at, but it's not hard to learn if you just play the game and allow yourself to fail.
No, it's very intuitive. Everything makes really good sense. I'm very happy about it
if you can play it on an iPad, I would recommend that because you can just touch the things to it feels like more like Star Trek-y because you're like touching like a touchscreen computer. But
I do want to ask, has anyone actually finished this game like ever?
I did.
Yeah, Cal can boast all about that. I have not gotten very far in contrast.
I think in all my runs I've had since I got this game on Steam, I've made it up to like the 3rd sector.
You've gotten even farther than I have. I'll fully admit this isn't my type of game for the most part. I mean, it is very well made, but usually ones that are more about decisions than actions I'm kind of poor at, and this game is really rough if your brain isn't to full acumen. I mean,
it is.
Avoid nebulas.
I can pretty much, don't always avoid nebulas. There's good reasons to go there because going to nebulas will slow down the pursuing rebel fleet.
That's very important.
I keep getting I keep getting boarded by assholes and obliterated though. I just have horrible luck.
It's a risk reward, which is a lot of elements in this game. You gotta sort of look at it and go.
It's amazing how well. It's not. You don't want to say balanced because you're not playing against other human players, but it is like. There are a lot of balance. Yeah, there's a lot of different factors at play, and they really do matter to the game. And they got it right pretty much the first time. It sounds like. I really am impressed by this game. This is one of those. What I love about it is that it's one of those games that just the more you know about it, the crazier crap you can do. My favorite thing is
there's a lot of systems. There's tons of ships, tons of weapons and abilities, and they added more stuff too. So there's like just piles and piles of content. It fits together really nicely. We didn't really mention that when you go to a planet or like a place, other stuff can happen. Sometimes it gives you like choose your own adventure sort of style questions where it's like,
do you help these people out or not? And sometimes you do, and they give you something in return. When people give you like new weapon systems or like robots or something, it's great.
I think, like, for the most part, I think there's some exceptions, but I think the outcomes are mostly random, unfortunately.
They are, mostly. But there are certain encounters like the giant spiders. It's never a good idea to go down and fight the giant spiders, ever.
That's true for every game ever.
There's a few choices that are definitely like net negatives, and then there's some which I think are coin tosses. They mix it up.
One of the worst things that can happen to you is you send out a crew member and they never come back. That's a big problem. But anyway, what I'm saying is
you can have a crew member betray you too, which is awesome.
Yeah,
they can turncoat that for evil.
You can sell your crew into slavery, I believe.
If you've got slavers chasing you, they can be like either give us a crew member or they fight you, and you're like, what?
The great thing about the slavers is that you kind of want to run into slavers because if you whoop their ass hard enough, they'll say, we'll give you a slave if you let us go. And then you can let them go and you'll get a new crew member. But you also perpetuate slave trade and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, if you blow them up, you'll kill everyone on it anyway, so...
Right, you're going to kill everybody anyway. So it's kind of like,
I have a stupid question. Do we know if this is a galaxy far, far away thing? Are we to assume that Earth has existed here, or is it like just so far in the future that like everything that Lincoln's worked for has just gone to crap?
It's like a Isaac Asimov-esque scenario where Earth was in the picture a long time ago, but people kind of lost track of it, and the galaxy has expanded to the point where nobody remembers where human beings originated. But I don't know. That's just my guess because Asimov is like the go-to. Like if you're going to guess as to what somebody's sci-fi inspiration was, he's usually the right answer.
Oh, hey, here's a little bit of game lore. Life ended on November 8th, 2016. How about that?
Wow. Fast approaching. What do you mean? Life on Earth?
That's the election day. I'm sorry. You're already brought up.
You're not serious.
Speaking of,
I hope I'm not. Holy shoot!
Come on, let's move it.
Back on focus. Can
I say something real quick?
Please do.
I feel this game relies a little bit too much on luck, because it's very possible to end up with a bad situation that you can't really get yourself out of.
I think that's kind of a trait of true roguelikes. It's like
I can understand if you don't like that, but definitely as far as roguelikes go, if the ability for the game to just be like, you know what, screw you, you're dead. If that doesn't exist, it's not a proper roguelike.
You can be fighting a ship and it's going pretty well. Then they hit you, and then someone gets set on fire. So you can send out your guys to go deal with the fire, leaving your other systems unpowered. And then more fires coming up, and your guys are dying because of the fire, and then everything's on fire. And
so vent the atmosphere.
Right. Okay. So here's a great. Before we rank it, this is a great point. This is my favorite thing about the game to do. Is the game is one of those great games. Has a bunch of different systems you can deal with that you can upgrade, and there's one seemingly useless system that actually becomes very, very important, and that's doors. If you have strong doors, especially in a case of invasion, it will take your enemies who board your ship a really long time to break down those doors. So one thing you can do is when an enemy boards your ship, you just evacuate that room and open up all the doors in that room except for the ones that, connect to, open up half the doors in that room and then just void the air in the room. You can open up the airlocks just wide open and just suck out the oxygen out. So they're like trying to break down the door. They can't teleport back to their ship, by the way, I don't think. So they can just try to break down the doors in time before they run out of oxygen, and you can just kind of watch them. You can also get a weapon that just sets fire to ships, and you can target your own ship with it if you want to. So if enemies teleport into a room that doesn't have any systems in it that can be damaged, you can just set that room on fire. And then once they die, you can open up the airlocks and suck the oxygen out, put out the fire really quickly, and then set everything up. And once the enemy's dead, you have all the time you want to fix up your ship again. Usually when somebody boards your ship, they're like a warlike species that is just determined to kill you, and they
that's generally how it goes. I think it's more for you.
I've tried using the crew teleporter to put my guys on the ship, but they just get their asses kicked.
You got to teleport rockmen. Always send the rock lords. They know what to do. Enemies show up, they turn into a rock. They're like, what?
Right.
It's just a rock.
Rock lords
Rockman, unfortunately.
they don't need oxygen, right? Is that what they?
Yeah, they don't need oxygen. They're healthy. I believe they're stronger than normal people, but they're crappy at operating systems, if I remember.
Right. I mean, the cool thing is
exclusively combat.
There's kind of a Masters of Orion aspect to this game too, because when you find crew members and stuff that you can hire at different star systems at random, or you find on slave ships or something, they'll you'll see someone's already maxed out on navigation or something like that, and you get them, and you can skip ahead a little bit, or have a much more powerful guy or much better person at running a certain system. That's
right, because it's a slight leveling up system as well. There's so many little micro systems, and they all fit together so elegantly.
It's amazing that it was probably just made by a few people, and their vision is so complete on this. So where do we want to put this? I think really highly of this game, but
firstly, I don't want us to be, biased to super old games and be like, well, this game isn't old, so we're gonna put it at the bottom. We have to be really fair to this game and say this is a really fantastic title.
Because that's kind of what I do. How about between Super Castlevania 4 and Worms Armageddon?
I think it's definitely a Worms Armageddon-esque game in terms the enduring value of people could be playing this game forever. There's no real. It could have been made 20 years ago without any problem.
I'm tempted to say below Worms Armageddon, but no further.
I guess it depends what you were after. Worms Armageddon is one of the better Worms titles. But to be perfectly honest, unless I was with a group of people, I would prefer to play FTL. By myself, I would pick FTL probably.
If you can play FTL on it's I would put this is one of my because one of our criteria is the 7 to 9 hour plane flight where you're just stuck somewhere and you can't move, and you can just, if there's a game that can absorb you so completely that you won't
It'd be really
get out of your chair.
To play this on a plane too, because you get the feeling of the.
I do it almost every time I fly to Europe or Asia. I love playing this game on planes because it's that's what you're doing. You're just sitting down and you can't move. And when you've got a good run going, That's all you can think about, and hours can just go by and you don't even notice because you're so obsessed with, getting through to the next, warping to the next sector and all that. And
it's one of those games that people would have like thought was a really cool idea, but never executed it very well.
Yeah, until there was like the idea of like kind of the indie, the 2000s kind of indie game revolution or something, where people are like, we can make anything into a roguelike.
That's kind of where we are now, though.
Right, that is where we are now.
I mean, in many ways, this is one of your favorite sort of like original sort of titles. Like, this is definitely a game that feels. I can't pick a game before it that really feels like FTL. Like, FTL delivers on so many levels with just enough like twists and unique elements to it that kind of just all show up at the same time. It's like, wow, yeah, this could have been made. You could have put a system like this on PS1. You could have done this no problem to some extent, but they didn't.
Oh yeah, or like Amiga or Commodore 60. Like, you don't
like. There's a bunch of Amiga games that kind of feel like this. I think there's games where you like have like systems to work, or you manage people and stuff.
Yeah,
there's
I'm fairly
Outposts and all these like horrible garbage games that just really they don't get the systems right. It never balances. They're completely obscure. This one is so perfectly approachable.
I'm okay putting it above Super Castlevania 4 and below Aliens.
I'd still place Super Castlevania 4 higher, to be honest. Then again, I'm a little biased. I admit that for as very well crafted as FTL is, it's not my type of game. I admit, it does have a lot of options to it, but I'm bad at it. I call it for the lose. Jokingly, I have to admit, so...
I'm a little skittish to put it under Worms, but if you guys feel that's right, I guess...
No, I put it above Worms, the original placement, Super Castlevania 4 and Worms Armageddon. I agree on that one.
Just wondering whether it should be above Castlevania, and it's an interesting question. I mean, you guys know I don't have any like love lost for Castlevania. It's not one of my favorite.
Yeah,
franchises.
I mean, Super Castlevania 4 is a well-polished gem of a game, of a platformer, but I mean, it doesn't bring that much new to the table. Then again, it's like, we did put it above Worms Armageddon.
With Worms Armageddon, I should mention that I like some other tank variants more than Worms. I think it's got too much crap going on, which is not what I think of FTL. I think FTL is
Worms is more approachable. At least I feel that way.
And I think Castlevania 4 is more approachable than both of them, but it's a different type of game, so I'm just comparing Kiwis and kumquats.
Well, okay, so far we've got 2 votes, right, for between Castlevania 4 and Worms Armageddon.
That's what I'll agree to, yes.
Okay, so it's between me and Cal now.
Yeah, you've got me. I'm really just trying to weigh up whether I'd put it above Super Castlevania 4, and my gut instinct is I would put it above Super Castlevania 4.
Well, then I guess we'll go with it so we can.
Well,
wait, what?
No, you don't just have to like. Oh, okay, well, fine.
So I mean, we've got a coin flip situation here.
If you want, I mean, if Bob's reevaluating himself, but
Well,
right.
I'd still rather put it under Worms again.
All right, who's gonna somebody call it? Okay.
Well, I'll give it to Tenga. Do you want to do it?
Well, since I technically have the least stake in this, sure. Feel free to toss it. Let me know when I should hit it.
Okay, go ahead.
Heads.
It is heads. All right.
That's
it.
Whoosh. All right. Well, there you have it. Science works.
Science. It is the luck of the draw, which is very
exactly.
much in FTLs.
If FTL dies as it lives on random chance.
And the game just got mugged in the Nebula, so it loses out to Castlevania 4, but it is nonetheless still really well made. One of the most defining indie titles of this decade, I feel.
It is a must play indie game of the last 10 years.